Every American who cares about our nation's future needs to see these facts. FBI Director Patel faced an intense grilling from Senator Booker over unreleased classified files. Watch what happens when Patel says,
"Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
the
know how
people
far
of New
we've
Jersey
come
tell me
since
what my
Utah?
time is.
Senator,
you can't lecture me.
you can tell me
Sir,
my time's over?
You may be the charge of the
I'm
FBI,
not going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you,
Mr. Chairman.
Not afraid of you.
Stay tuned so you don't miss the critical details. Understanding this is your civic duty. Watch the real footage now.
Discussions about removing FBI officials and installing political personnel before you were confirmed to that position. And I wonder, did you then understand or have conversations with the White House about the intentions to do so?
Before I was confirmed,
Yes, sir.
did I have discussions with the White House to remove FBI personnel?
Yes.
No.
So you're saying that you had no discussions with the White House before you were in the position about the removal of any personnel from the agency?
As I was preparing for my confirmation hearing, I had numerous discussions involving the type of people that would be employed, and that those that were failing to meet the mark at the FBI would no longer be employed if I were confirmed.
And I'm assuming that mark had to do with loyalty to the Trump administration.
No, you're wrong.
Okay. I'd like to revisit another subject from that hearing. Did you testify, excuse me, you did testify before the grand jury that President Trump had declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Is that correct?
I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. Whatever it says is the best evidence.
You know, that's what you said to Senator Whitehouse, that your grand jury testimony was publicly released. It has not been. In fact, in July, a court denied a news outlet's bid to get that transcript. But the court said quite clearly that you are free to discuss your grand jury testimony. So I ask you again, did you testify before the grand jury that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified document case?
And that is why I took your invitation to work with the department and the court to have that transcript released. And the transcript is the best evidence of what I said then.
So you're saying right now this committee can have access to what you said before the grand jury?
To whatever was released. Under my understanding, Senator, that the Department of Justice
You and I both understand the law. Let me finish. I understand under Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Procedure, a grand jury witness, in this case you, is not barred from sharing their grand jury testimony. This is an oversight hearing. This is germane to your integrity and credibility. You know right now whether or not you testified that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Why are you refusing to answer that simple yes or no question right now?
Because the premise of your question is inaccurate, and
there is no premise to my question, but trying to get to an order of what is truth or not.
How do you How do you know what was asked in the grand jury if you weren't there?
Mr. Patel, this is a mockery you're making of this hearing and simple questions.
It's a simple question. If you have
Mr. Patel, during your nomination,
but you don't have it.
You promised.
The most intense phase of this hearing is starting right now. You just watched Kash Patel use legal jargon to avoid answering a simple question about classified records. But behind all that technical talk lies a much bigger concern. Under Rule 6, witnesses are free to discuss their own testimony anytime. By hiding behind the transcript, Patel isn't protecting grand jury secrecy, he is deflecting accountability. Ask yourself, is the FBI leadership hiding key facts from Congress? Booker isn't letting it go. Pay close attention to how Patel reacts when he is directly accused of carrying out a campaign of political retribution against his own agents.
You promised that, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. When I asked you, are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with the Trump administration, you explicitly said under oath that you were not aware of any plans to punish FBI agents associated with criminal investigations of Donald Trump. I don't believe you were truthful. Firing FBI employees based solely on the cases that they are investigating, their case assignments, is illegal, and you know that. A new lawsuit that's been discussed numerous times, filed by 3 FBI officials, alleges that you carried out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution, in quotes, against FBI employees for, quote, failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. One of those plaintiffs has been discussed today, Brian Driscoll. Now, we know 20 years of distinguished service to the FBI before you terminated him. Special agent in charge of FBI's Newark field office, where he operated with distinction. Medal of Valor winner, Shield of Bravery awards. He's a patriot. You terminated Driscoll via a letter dated October 8th, 2025, and in that letter you said that you were firing him pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution. Well, you're not the President of the United States, and so I'm wondering under what authority you were allowed to terminate him.
That matter is under litigation, and I'm not able to discuss it.
Okay, well, discuss this. Did you have discussions with Stephen Miller about firing this particular person or about his continuance in the FBI?
Not that I recall.
How often do you speak to Stephen Miller?
Frequently on our Homeland Security task forces.
You frequently talk with Stephen Miller about subjects other than Homeland Security task force issues, correct?
I frequently talk to Mr. Miller about Homeland Security task forces.
Has Stephen Miller ever given you his opinions on how to run your agency?
Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable to the FBI. That's what we talk about.
So you frequently discuss your job and your responsibilities with Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. She's the Attorney General.
Understood. Okay.
Pay close attention to what just happened. Patel fired a decorated 20-year FBI veteran, citing Article 2 of the Constitution, a power reserved exclusively for the president. At the same time, he admitted to frequent discussions with White House advisor Stephen Miller. That raises an urgent question. Is the FBI maintaining its historic independence, or are political advisors calling the shots? Watch what happens next as Booker exposes gutted task forces, forcing Patel into a corner.
Okay. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. You've shifted the agency's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. Part of this operation is the work of mass law enforcement who jump out of cars, snatch people off streets at churches, schools, and their jobs and hospitals. Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement, yes or no?
The premise of what you say is entirely
false. Have there been
false.
any FBI agents who investigate foreign domestic terrorism?
You don't get to say America is not safer under this leadership.
I am not saying
America
that.
is safer because of the work of the FBI.
You're making a presumption of premise.
4,700 children.
Sir,
we have seized 6,000 weapons and 23,000 violent felons have been
FBI
arrested.
agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Corrections Squad, reassigned. People who defend children, reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption, And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think.
Booker said something in that segment that deserves more attention than it typically gets. He stated, for the record, that this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director has any prior experience inside the Bureau. That is not a political talking point. It is a structural fact. The FBI has existed for over 115 years. Every director in its history came in with either federal law enforcement experience, prosecutorial background, or deep intelligence work. The institutional logic was always the same. The Bureau is too complex, too sensitive, and too operationally delicate to be led by someone learning on the job. The deputy director traditionally served as the institutional anchor, the person who knew where the bodies were buried, so to speak, and made sure the wheels kept turning no matter who sat in the top chair. Both positions are now held by people with no FBI experience. What that means in practice is that institutional memory, the kind that tells you which task forces cannot be disbanded without creating dangerous gaps, which cases need quiet continuity, and which decisions have irreversible consequences, is no longer in the room at the top. Booker also made a point Patel never actually refuted, that it would take 14 years to fill the agency's vacancies. Think about what that number means. Whatever your politics, a 14-year gap in law enforcement capacity does not hurt politicians. It lands on regular neighborhoods, unsolved cases, and communities waiting for help that never comes. The final video brings the whole hearing to its breaking point, and what Patel says in his own defense is something you need to hear in full.
Who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the Bureau, but here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this. I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes,
at
sir.
this point?
That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If
You're
you
gonna
want to
lecture
talk
me
about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tears
my
this country
time
apart.
to
There
address
should be a
your
unifying-
falsehoods.
Oh,
You are an
you can try
embarrassment
all
to the
you
division
want
in this country.
to not
Senator,
take
it is
my
responsibility
time.
for what
You
you
had
have
your
said.
time.
Sir, you're
Your
making a
time is
mockery of this
over.
committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
The
know how
people
far
of New
we've
Jersey
come
tell me
since
what my
you
time is.
Senator-
You can't lecture me.
You can tell me
Sir,
my time's over.
You may be the charge of the
I'm not
FBI,
going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning of this meeting that this back and forth, talking over each other, doesn't work. And I said if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. and he has the privilege to do that uninterrupted.
Mr.
So
Chairman, one point of order.
Go ahead, Mr.
I've
Patel.
watched him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
He has been rude and disrespectful to senator after senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer, I didn't stop the senator either. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the FBI, under my 7-month leadership, were failing this administration in this country, why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A double increase from that time last year. Why is it that we have seized 6,000 weapons? Why have we found 1,500 child predators and arrested them? Why have we 300 human traffickers in jail? Why have we found and identified 4,700 children? Why have we seized 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill a third of the American public, a 25% increase alone from last year? 88,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, 7,000 kilograms of meth seized, and that's just on our criminal operations in summer heat. How is it possible that we're taking 8 kilograms off the streets of the cities in New Jersey and preventing the deaths of 607,000 people this year alone, a failure of the FBI and my leadership? How is it that we have counterintelligence arrests already this year exceeding the numbers from the entirety of last year? 33% increase in PRC, 83% in Russia, 60% in the CI space as it relates to Iran, and we haven't even talked about CT, the southern...
What you just witnessed was the exact moment everything exploded on Capitol Hill. Senator Booker laid out a brutal list of accusations, thinking he had Patel backed into a corner. But instead of sitting there silently, Patel dropped the polite talk and snapped right back. He looked a United States senator in the eye and made it clear he wasn't backing down. What you are about to see is the raw, unfiltered clash everyone is talking about. Booker spent the bulk of his time building a case methodically. He named a specific person, Brian Driscoll, 20 years of service, Medal of Valor, Shield of Bravery. He cited a specific letter dated the 8th of October, 2025. He referenced a specific lawsuit filed by 3 FBI officials using specific legal language. He invoked Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6 by number. This wasn't just a political rant. It was constructed the way a prosecutor builds a record, detail by detail, so that no single piece can be dismissed without the whole picture collapsing. And Patel's responses taken together follow a pattern that becomes visible only when you step back from the yelling on the grand jury testimony, deflect to the transcript. On the Driscoll firing, litigation is pending. On Stephen Miller conversations, I don't recall specific discussions. On agent reassignments, the premise is false. On the high-profile hidden files, no direct answer. On the major security threat claims, no direct answer. Every response is either a procedural barrier or a denial of the question's framing rather than a denial of the underlying fact. That distinction matters enormously. Saying the premise is false is not the same as saying no agents working on critical, vulnerable cases were reassigned. It sounds like a denial. It is not one. The debate over those hidden high-profile records is its own thread entirely. Patel made a public commitment on the record that those files would be released. They have not been released. In a Senate oversight hearing, when a senator raises that broken promise directly, the FBI director does not say, "We are releasing them next week," or "There is a legal obstacle preventing release." He does not address it at all. That silence, in a proceeding where everything is on the record, carries its own weight. Then the hearing broke down. Patel, after Booker's time formally ended, called the senator's remarks a rant of false information. Booker objected immediately, correctly noting that it was his time. Patel kept talking. The chairman intervened by explaining he had told Patel he would be given time to respond after the senator's clock expired. What followed was something unusual for a Senate hearing. A sitting cabinet-level official trading words with a senator in real time, both talking simultaneously, neither yielding. And then Patel said it plainly. "I'm not afraid of you." Consider what that sentence means in that setting. The FBI director reports to the Attorney General and, ultimately, serves at the pleasure of the president. A senator is a member of the legislative branch, constitutionally empowered to conduct oversight of the executive. The relationship is one of accountability. The FBI director does not need to be afraid of any individual senator. But I'm not afraid of you as a response to oversight. Questioning is not a declaration of confidence. It is a statement about how that director views the oversight process itself. It tells you something about whether the person in that chair believes they are genuinely accountable to the institution asking the questions. Then came Patel's rebuttal, delivered after Chairman Grassley gave him the floor uninterrupted. And here is where the story takes a turn that most viewers probably did not register in real time. Patel rattled off an impressive list of statistics. Massive numbers of criminal arrests, thousands of weapons seized, and historic amounts of illegal narcotics taken off the streets. These are not made-up numbers. The FBI does run major criminal operations, and those operations produce real results. The question Booker's argument raises, and which Patel's statistics cannot fully answer, is one of proportion and priority. If 20% of the Bureau's agents have been redirected to immigration enforcement, as the Cato Institute's analysis of ICE data suggests, the question is not whether the remaining 80% are still catching criminals. Of course they are. The question is what the 20% would have been doing otherwise, and whether the cases that lost those resources were less important or simply less politically convenient. The FBI has historically maintained specialized units precisely because certain threats require deep, sustained expertise. Counterintelligence work against Russian interference, for instance, takes years to develop. An agent reassigned midway through a long-term operation does not just pause the work often dies. Relationships built with sources evaporate. Institutional memory of what was learned walks out the door. You cannot measure that loss in an arrest count. Booker said something near the end of his remarks that you shouldn't ignore. That this may be Patel's last oversight hearing because he does not expect Patel to last in the role. He framed it not as a threat, but as a historical observation about how the current administration has treated its own appointees. That kind of public statement, from a senator to a cabinet official, in an oversight hearing, is its own kind of accountability mechanism. It says, even if we cannot compel an answer today, the record exists, and the clock runs in one direction. What no one in that room could fully resolve, and what lingers after the cameras stop, is the deeper question underneath all of it. The FBI's value to the country is not just what it does today. It is the trust that makes informants come forward, that makes foreign partners share intelligence, that makes witnesses cooperate. That trust is built over generations, and it is fragile. Once people begin to believe, rightly or wrongly, that the Bureau operates on political loyalty rather than law, the cooperation that makes serious investigations possible begins to dry up. That consequence does not show up in arrest statistics. It shows up years later in the cases that never got made and the threats that were never stopped. The long-term impact on the FBI's independence and Congress's authority will be felt long after this hearing room clears. But where do you stand? Should agency leaders face strict congressional accountability, or should executive power override Senate oversight? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. To help us continue providing independent, unfiltered coverage of Capitol Hill, hit the like button and subscribe to the Politics Report.